Jeszcze raz witamy wszystkich i zapraszamy do fajnego dnia, do fajnych dyskusji. Dziękuję.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. And well, I'll try to live up to that. So I'm Brian Gammage. My job title is I am the Chief Market Technologist for End User Computing, which of course is the technology that we all use for work. I'm not going to spend my time explaining to you what that job title means. Instead, I'm going to tell you something that amuses me. I have teenage children, and occasionally you may find this happens to you. The school where my children go ask parents to come in and offer helpful advice to children as they move out of school and begin a career. And always I offer the same thing. I offer the same presentation, which is I will come and talk to you about how you are learning to do jobs that haven't been invented yet. Somehow the school never wants me because the career officers are quite uncomfortable about that. But I think the reality that we live through is that we are doing jobs that hadn't been invented when we were at school, in most cases. My job is like that. I'm helping customers work out how they want to change the way they equip their workforce to work with technology. And technology is at the heart of everything these days. You will, I'm sure, have heard a lot of talk about digital transformation. I've been with VMware now for 5 years. Before that, I was a research fellow with Gartner. And my ex-colleagues spend a lot of time talking about digital. Right? Everything is going digital. I think we can see that, and I will use some examples. But what do you need to do in this digital age? From VMware's point of view, digital means things are by definition in software. This is a software-defined age. So, how does that define the new rules for success for all of you? Because change is the one constant, and back to my description of my children at school, we're doing jobs tomorrow that are different from the jobs we did yesterday. It's always the way. As we look at the priorities around us in this changing world, really there are three things that I think we need to focus on. The first, if we are in a customer-facing role, if our business services individuals, then you will know that the standard for success and quality changes all the time. If you're not convinced about that, let me ask you a personal question. You all do things online. Your patience with the delay when you click and something happening, is that more now than it was, say, 2 years ago? Or is it less? What that's showing you exactly, that is the rule of success. So if your website does not come up to speed in a customer transaction, doesn't respond to them in a way that they expect, what are they going to do? The risk is they go somewhere else. The experience for customers has to be good. It has to keep them happy, because if somebody else is keeping them happier with their technology interface, you risk losing business. Our CTO also has a teenage daughter. He tells me that she has changed bank 4 times in 6 months because she did not like their mobile application. Now, I don't know, maybe his teenagers are different from mine, but I would expect the banking services they were receiving were pretty much the same. Yeah? Okay. The rules of success, of winning and losing are different. You have to respond swiftly, both to opportunities and also to other people coming to take advantage of your opportunity. Perhaps the example here that we all know from the news, and I don't intend to have a digression about regulatory environments and things, is that new taxi model, Uber. Forget the discussion about regulated drivers and things for a second. Let's look at what's happening in an industry where previously to run a service you need to invest heavily in capital to be able to provide the service to your customers. Motor cars cost money. Now we have a business model where 2 men with a database and a mobile application can enter the market remotely like that. They've changed the relationship between access to capital and the business result. That's a digital world. That's quite scary. Okay, so you need to be able to respond quickly to opportunities, but also if somebody comes into your space and disrupts your environment with new technology, if you can't respond quickly, it's not good. And lastly, you need to safeguard your brand and the trust of your customers. We see ever more examples of this in the press. I would suggest to you that we almost need to rethink security. There is a new measure of security success, and this is not how big your walls are. The measure of security success is that if and when something happens, and it probably will, because unfortunately there are some pretty smart people out there trying to do bad things, and money always motivates. If and when it happens, how long does it take you to respond? The gap between an exploit happening and you being able to tell your customers, these were the people who were affected, this is what happened, and this is what we've done to fix it. Any gap greater than 0 is damage to your reputation. If you're a publicly quoted company, it's the devaluation of your stock price. Again, it's a scary world. We saw an example of this in the UK. If you not recognise the accent, I'm not an American, I'm from Britain. And we had a big telco hack back in November of last year, a company called TalkTalk. Actually, it turned out the hack was done by a 14-year-old boy sitting in his bedroom in Northern Ireland, okay? Surplus information. The CEO of the company, first of all, came out and said we had a big hack. We don't know how many customer records were affected. It took them 2 weeks to come back and say, no, it wasn't millions, it was only a couple of 100,000 and we've done that. 2 weeks. Can you imagine what happened to their customer base, their stock price, their reputation in the meantime? Time is the new measure of success. So what does this mean for the things that we all know about, IT operations? Well, really, we've got 3 areas that we need to think about improving. The first is just the way we respond to things. And here, actually, we need to rethink the way we do operations. Now, there's only so many ways you can dress this up, so I'll try to express this in the right way. So much of what we've done in the previous era of technology has been about stopping change. Think about the way you have people who manage servers and PCs and devices and things within your organization and then secure them. They want to know what you have so they can manage and secure the configuration of the technology. So if I know the configuration of the technology, I can manage it and make it more secure. What's more, every configuration of technology is a process, so the more processes I have, the more configurations I have, the more processes I have, the more work I have, the higher the operational cost of maintaining my environment. That's the reality of technology today, and the reality that we've lived in through the last 15, 20 years. So what we try to do is to stop things from changing, then we can minimize the overhead and respond a little bit more quickly, but it is still too slow. So somehow we need to change that so we can move into that brand defending environment that I just talked about, so we can embrace new technology. The level of diversity of the technology we're employing and exploiting these days has increased dramatically in the last few years and continues to increase. It's worth remembering that the smartphone appeared with from Apple in 2007, the iPad in 2009. Now, these are fairly short time periods in the big picture of how long we've been deploying and running technology. So we're going to have to rethink operations so we can respond more quickly. I'll give you another example, and again, remember, I'm end user computing, so I look at the way we work through technology. Workforce demographics have changed. I was born in 1963, okay? So that makes me officially the last year of the baby boomers. Academic research tells us that the baby boomers averaged across the globe 7 years in each job. Generation X, the generation that followed, 5 years. The millennials, Gen Y so far, 2 years. Well, back to my commentary about school and my children. Will they have a permanent job. In a world in which your workforce is much more transient, can you afford to spend hours and days equipping them to begin to work? You can't. People need to be able to come in and go out much more quickly. So we need to move away from an architecture for a static world to an architecture designed to support change. We need to be able to have a single view across all the different elements. When somebody in the business comes to you and looks for an investment in a new capability, I would bet that their unit of investment, when they don't come and ask you for a server or a piece of networking or a thing, they come and ask you for a business process, they come and ask you for an application. The unit of investment is an application. You can't be thinking about, well, what does that mean for all the bits? You need to be able to just turn one dial and switch on that new capability. So you need to be able to scale across all of the elements, break down the silos of what is technology today. And finally, clearly, security architecture needs to be rethought. We can't be doing forensics to find out what happened afterwards. We're not in CSI, if I'm quoting a television series that you know of. We can't do that because that's time. That's the reputation damage. We've got to have security built in so that auditability is automatic. So we have to rethink the way we do most of our operations. What does that mean for IT? Well, actually, it does come down to what I said before about applications. We have to rethink, modernize, and mobilize our applications. That's not just a case of sticking an existing application on a smartphone, because that possibly won't change anything. In fact, it might make things worse. Applications are at the core of your business. Every business is based on business processes. Every business process today is technology enabled. Those are applications. Applications might be the new application your CMO comes and asks for. They might be, I don't know, Word or Outlook or something like that. But they could also be the spreadsheet that was developed by some student in their summer vacation 15 years ago that today helps you transfer the results of your sales into your financial reporting database. Okay? And yes, that is the reality we all know. That's the static nature of the things we have to break through. You have to understand what your application portfolio looks like, because otherwise you can't carry it forward. Some applications will be replaced, some applications will just be improved and modernized and packaged to be more portable. You've got to be able to future-proof your infrastructure back end. Call it your cloud, call it whatever you want. But I talked about that pool of being able to dial up the new application without thinking first about what does that mean for all the constituent parts. Right? This is the difference between shopping for food in the supermarket and buying meals. Okay? You need to be able to respond more quickly to the business requests you've got, and that means being able to work with the diversity of technology infrastructure today, not only in terms of technology itself, but also in terms of provision. Somewhere down the corridor, Salesforce are having a discussion. Yeah, I saw as I came in. All right? Almost every commercial organization around the world that I come across seems to use them for customer relationship management these days. So in the period of a decade, we've seen, who were the big people previously? Remember? Siebel, right? We've seen an on-site application at the core of a business process go off-site, right, into the cloud. And that's a key integration. I talked before about the spreadsheet and transferring data from your Salesforce into your financial records. Where does that happen? Okay, so you've got to be able to future-proof so you're able to deal with this kind of change, because not only has it happened, it will continue to happen. And finally, of course, you've got to rethink security, because you don't want to find yourself in that scenario taking 2 weeks to say what happened. So some examples of what we've seen in the digital world. I'll start with GE, General Electric, because they've recognized clearly that every process they have is a software-enabled process. Therefore, they are a software company. Doesn't matter what you do, your organization is a software organization to some degree. That's the reality of digital. And then, of course, you can see my ex-colleagues at Gartner, they're sort of wrapping it up in their usual terminology. Web-scale applications means applications that can reach as many people as necessary on the fly, scalable capability. Again, my commentary before about how long do you wait when you click on a website these days? Well, you might be applying for the concert tickets at the same time as 100,000 other people. Yeah? If it doesn't happen, you can play. The one I'm going to focus on actually is from a friend of mine, Danny Dagger, the CIO in Audi Bank in Beirut. Interesting company. And the reason I'm going to focus on that is actually what they've done with their branch experience. If there's anybody here in banking, right, then you know that it's the retail banking environment challenging. I'm not going to touch on investment banking, whole different topic, okay? Retail banking, what's happening there? You're trying to do two things. You're trying to, first of all, take advantage of the bank at home online capability to simplify it as much as possible and to align it with the in-branch experience. You're doing that because you actually want more people to bank at home than in your branches, because it costs less, yeah? Right, I mean, that's what the business wants. So if you can align those two things, make them the same. So instead of going into a bank and sitting and looking, you know, over a screen at somebody who's processing something you can't see, you have the same shared experience. Now you feel more encouraged to go home and bank yourself because you kind of feel more comfortable. Right? That's just a business objective. And then on top of that, once you have that platform, well, here's core banking, here's wealth management, here's insurance. Does that sound okay? So that's what they've done. And the reason I call it out is because most retail banks I talk to are trying to do exactly the same thing. Thank you very much. So for me, this transfer into sort of digital operation is happening everywhere. It's happening because these are the new rules of success in competition. But while we're talking about success in competition, I'll give you a couple more personal examples. And forgive me, we talked about one of these yesterday evening, and I know this is relevant to you as a tennis player, which I clearly registered, okay? Rafa Nadal took a tennis racket from a new company, a French company, you know the name, not me. Okay, I'll stick with that. Back in about 2007, 2008, I believe. And this tennis racket had a sensor embedded in the handle, so that when he plays tennis, you can tell where and how he hit the ball, okay? Now, the experts tell me, I've never been a tennis player, that there is a sweet spot on the tennis racket, and so understanding whether you're finding the sweet spot, etc., is really important. Rafa Nadal used that tennis racket to train and improve. I think it actually turned out that he wasn't hitting the tennis ball in the sweet spot, which is interesting. But also, he was then able to persuade the Global Tennis Organization, I believe they had 21 rules previously, to introduce a new rule, so they now have 22, I didn't know that, okay, and to allow him to use that in competition, so he can get feedback. Now, that's interesting in terms of him improving his game. What of course is extra interesting is now you have a tennis racket company who used to sell you a thing, now able to sell you a service about helping you train and learn to play tennis, right? That's how you change business. Another example from my personal life, just something I wake up to in the morning, I recently acquired a new coffee machine, right? And my coffee machine is a connected coffee machine. It tells me how much coffee I've drunk, when I need to order new coffee, when I need to go and empty it. That might sound like a small thing, but it's pretty useful, right? And you know what? I chose that coffee machine because it did those things. Not because it makes great coffee. Interesting. Okay? Although I take great coffee for, you know, as sort of given. Right?
Did it call you in the morning?
Hmm?
Did it call you in the morning?
No, unfortunately not. No, but I have dogs for that. That's a different thing. This is digital transformation, isn't it? Real, in everyday life. It's not just something we're making up. These are the new rules of competition. So in terms of the customer experience, we touched on this before. This is about improving and modernizing and mobilizing your applications. Please don't think this is just taking existing applications and sticking them on devices. When people talk to me about mobile and think mobile is just smartphones or location, it's not. Mobile is also economically mobile, it's socially mobile, it means more than that. The example I would use is you've all been in the situation, I'm sure, of having one of those multi-channel engagements with somebody in your personal life, where perhaps you've filled in details through the application and then you've needed to call somebody. And you call somebody and they have no idea what you've just spent 10 minutes putting into the application. Anybody ever had a customer experience like that? Right? That is an application that's not been joined up, isn't it? What needs to happen with applications to make them more agile, to make them more flexible, to be able to respond to the organization around us, is they need to be joined up at the back end. The plane of integration between processes needs to go back so that those things happen automatically, so that your data is transferred to the call center so that when you call in, they know, oh yes, you already entered your details. That's customer service. That puts a smile on your face. And that keeps you, as opposed to thinking these people aren't looking after me. So it does start with your applications. It really does. It's not just sticking, I don't know, Office 365 on your smartphone. You probably want to do that as well, but you want to think about the way it all links together. Now, give you an example of this. I'll run a short video. You've probably heard enough from me for a couple of minutes. Just going to talk to you about a company called Mefinity, which is a payment services company. Just give you the technology headlines. They were all physical. They went virtual, software defined. Okay, and in doing so, they increased the key performance metric for them, which is transactions per second, by a factor of between 2 and 3. In doing so, that means that they are now about 2/3 the speed of PayPal, who are the gold standard in this area. Let's just listen to the video. It's only a minute and a half long.
NX Systems is a global payment solution provider. We have an outreach in 180 countries. We move over 80 currencies, and our systems are in over 90 languages, and we assist corporates in all their money movements. Our biggest challenge right now is we're getting a lot of business requests of new features and new products. Development is going quite fast, and we're looking at technology which will help us get there, which are mainly containerized solutions and cloud-native apps. NX Systems has been experimenting with containers for over 24 months, and when we saw that
High speed?
High speed, it worked about 3 times in practice this morning, so should we go back and try it again, or? No, we seem to be locked on there for a second.
Do we have someone from IT?
David, go.
Okay, no, I'm going to stop pushing buttons now because I'm probably not helping. Yeah, okay, just as you can tell though, they're already talking about the things they did, and the key here is the speed of response. As an organisation, micropayments is massive transactions, and as I said, the benchmark in terms of performance is very much PayPal, who I think we've probably all used. Do we give up on this one, or should we move on? Yep. Just a second. Time for a joke. I don't do jokes. I do serious things. Right? I don't do jokes. But let me just ask a question. I mean, the digital world that I'm trying to paint is a practical digital world, right? It's not some marketing construct. I think this is the world we're moving into. Do you, as anybody here taken my coffee machine example? No? I have an online control for my central heating at home, so I can turn my heating on before I go home. I mean, this is not a new thing. This is a Nest system. In Britain, they have the same thing. I mean, this is the world we increasingly live in, and that means that my heating provider now either has to work with my internet service so I can make sure the house is warm when I get in, and that the water is warm when I get up in the morning and want to shower. It's absolutely top of my list of quality of life issues. Then, if they can't integrate with that, you know what? I'm going to change provider. Okay?
But a few months ago, there was issue about the central heating string systems that all were installed with default service passwords, and everyone could change your temperature at home.
Now, security is a different thing, and we do need to rethink security. I'd have to say, I mean, I'm going to live with my sort of own customer experience. We're ready.
Yes.
Should we do I need to launch it, or can you launch it? You launch it for me. Yes.
Continue.
Okay. We'll come back to that. All right, we've just gone to the next slide. That's fine. So, but we have another video, so we'll test it again. And let's just move on. I don't want to waste too much of your time. So that was the piece about modernizing and mobilizing applications. What you actually saw was that they were able to deploy things more rapidly. In the mobile payments world, it's quite competitive. Our example about retail banking, they're in that same space. right? So they've got to be able to offer up competitive processes really quickly, maintain that throughput, etc., etc. That's what they've done. That's what he was going to tell you. He just took a minute and a half. I took 10 seconds. Okay. Now, in terms of breaking down the silos, you know, we call it future-proofing your cloud. Our marketing people, they're really busy. What it really means is that you cannot assume that the resources that make up your IT systems are going to be things that you own and that you manage in the future. The reality is mixed. I gave the example before about the people down the corridor, Salesforce, and how most organizations now use them, and yet that data drops into the financial reporting system, which feeds, you know, regular results. Those things can't break or you're in real trouble. So the reality already is you've got applications and resources sitting in different places. And you know what? It's changed a lot in the last decade or so, and it will change a lot more in the decade ahead. You need to be able to deal with that as one, so that when it changes, you can adapt and embrace. And again, this is an architecture designed for change. It doesn't matter who runs it, who you've outsourced it to in terms of the cloud, right? Where it sits, who owns it, how you're paying for it. It doesn't matter. When it needs to do something for you, you just need to be able to make it do it. One of the things that I come across very frequently in this age of mixed ownership and mixed management is the question of relevance. We as leaders in IT, how relevant are we if this world is all moving around us? You know what? More relevant, because the decisions we're making have now moved from the technical, practical level to a level above. Right? And the metaphor I'd use for this is searching on the internet. Right? Everything you want to find is on the internet, right? There's so much information, everything you could possibly be looking for, but most of it is not relevant to you, right? It's like searching in the fog, white noise, yeah? And finding the things that matter to you when you want to find something, whether you're looking for a holiday or doing some background checks on one of your key suppliers. That's really hard, okay? That's the metaphor for the skill of a leader in IT now, being able to deal as a meta level with these things coming from different places. It is changing, it will change. Your relationship to something like cloud-based services will increasingly be defined by the balance sheet strategy of your organization, okay? And that, as we know, can change with time. So that's higher level skill in a way than was required before. And then of course there's security. We have to rethink security. It cannot be about walls. And this is partly what I said before about processes and things that were linked on stopping the world from changing. We know what it looks like inside, we build big walls, we stop people getting in. Not possible. Things will happen. When things happen, you need to know what happened, what was affected, and what you can do about it really, really quickly. You need to build in security that is the level of the unit of investment that the business comes asking for from you, which is the application level security. So that if you have access to an application, your tunnel of access is wrapped around that, identified to you with your policy, your access rights, all the way through to the resources that you're accessing over here. So if something goes wrong, I immediately know where it was, because it was in that one tunnel. And if something changes, if you move on or somebody else is now taking your access, I cancel the policy, the tunnel disappears, and I create a new one. That's a software-defined management of network security, right? Very, very different approach. That's what you need to know. Our approach to this is called NSX, okay, which is our networking security approach, virtual networking. And we're going to give you another quick video, which I have every confidence will work this time. Don't worry, no stress. Okay, this is Nova Media, no pressure. This is Nova Media. They are the third largest charity fundraising organization in the world. Interesting business model, basically running lotteries to raise lots of money to give to good causes. Immediately you can see loads of data, loads of quick transactions, impatient users, big security concerns. They came to us, we helped them build 4 greenfield data centers. Let's hear what they tell us.
Secure financial donation data isn't an option, it's an essential. When we started investigating software-defined data center last year, there was no company who could deliver the whole stack that was needed for Nova Media. We needed flexibility, scalability, and we found that in the VMware solution. Our business model is based on trust and security. And of course, NSX is one of the biggest part of this to get the data center secured enough. This platform handles 8.5 million lottery tickets each month. And that means that 1.4 billion euro goes through that platform. That platform has to be secured, and NSX is giving that security for us. Every VM is firewalled. It's isolated, it's segmented. That's what we need at this moment in this world, to be prepared that no hacker can come in. And even if they come in, they cannot go further than the first step. NSX is the blueprint for the whole company. It makes life easier. Things can happen in seconds, in minutes, where previously it took hours or days even. So that's a big advantage for when you are in a very dynamic environment. I'm confident that NSX is going to be an industry standard.
Oh, I love it when the technology works, right? There you go. Thank you. I spoke too soon, didn't I? There you go. So, NSX is interesting technology. I mean, we talk about microsegmentation. If you're talking to VMware people, you might hear this term. The key is once, previously in a data center architecture, once somebody was in, they were in. Okay? No, now once they're in their tunnel. Okay, so you're containing and you really are architecting not only for better security, but also for change, because those virtual tunnels, they can be created, copied, destroyed, removed, etc., just in the same way as you've been doing with virtual machines for some period of time. And that really is the core for us at VMware about how we're helping transform infrastructure. That's pretty much what we think we've been doing for the last 15 years. You might disagree. You might have brought us in to help you save money on buying hardware. Okay, but what we really did was we changed how you manage technology. Because when you turned one box into multiple virtual servers, yes, you were saving money on hardware, but actually what you're also doing is changing the management model, because now those virtual servers could be copied, deleted, restored, moved, like that. Okay, and that's a software-defined infrastructure, and that's what we're doing now with networking. It's what we're doing across the board. It's what we do in my area in how people work through technology in digital workspaces. So this is a journey we've been on for some time. This is what VMware is pretty much dedicated to, transforming infrastructure. And as you look at your own digital transformation, we may or may not be relevant to it. But please at least take on board that we've had quite a lot of experience of helping some of our customers do this. So just a final thought, whatever you do, you probably won't do it alone. My own experience, and actually what my job really entails, I said I wasn't going to tell you, is I spend my time and I have a team of people who spend their time helping customers work out how they're going to transform the way their workforce works through technology. Why are we doing that? Because it's not easy. It was a lot easier when you didn't have choice. We need one of those, we'll get one of those. Now, do I own it? You decide what you're going to do, and then you have to decide, okay, do I own it or do I get it as a service? It's multiple layers of decision. I said the leading job in technology has got a lot more challenging, a lot more valuable. So we help customers do that, but we can't help every customer. I have 5 people in my team. I can't help every customer at once. We rely on a network of partners. And you know that when you do any project, the people you bring in to help you and expand your own capability of those partners. So please, when you see us as well, see that broad network of people around you. If it's not us, there's somebody out there who probably can help you. Well, with that, and despite the technology challenges, but we got through it, that's the end of my short section this morning. I'd like to thank you for your time. What do you do with this thought that I've just tried to share with you? And hopefully it's been a clear message for you. Well, first of all, just talk with each other. You know that's going to be one of the main values you get from today, right? Not listening to us. Yeah? It's talking and sharing experiences with each other. See what each other have done, because you're all on the edge of the unknown at the same time. Remember what I said about my children at school. You're preparing for jobs that haven't been invented yet. You're preparing today for challenges that you've never met before, tomorrow. Okay? the best thing you can do is share with each other. And then, if we can help you, we do have people out there who are doing these digital transformation workshops. We have done it with lots of others. I can't tell you we know all the answers to all of your questions, but we've probably seen other people with similar questions and we've helped them. So hopefully we can help you. Okay? Thank you very much. Thank you.